Good morning. Welcome back to Econ class. Today our topic is income consumption curve. Now, to understand income consumption curve, I will take here three cases. Our first case is when x is inferior and y is normal good. X is inferior and y is normal good. Okay? Now, what will happen in such case if x is inferior and my y is normal? This is my budget line, and let's say that at this point in the budget line, this is my equilibrium point. This is a indifference curve, okay, and this is my equilibrium point. Similarly, when my budget line increased, okay, that is my income is increasing, right? Let's say that my new indifference curve is here and this is my equilibrium point. Let's mark this curve IC1, IC2, and this is E1, this is E2. Okay. Now, if further my income increases, then what will happen? My budget line will again increase. Okay. Now let's say that this is the IC curve, okay, IC3, and this is my new equilibrium point, E3, okay. Now, if you kindly look at this ICC curve, you will find that the curve of ICC is bending towards the y-axis. See, if we join the equilibrium points, okay, we can see that it is bending towards the y-axis. So this happens when x is inferior and y is normal. What happens? The curve bends towards the y-axis. Okay. Now let's take the opposite case. This is my budget line and this is my indifference curve and my equilibrium point is this. So IC1 and this is my equilibrium point. Okay. Now if my budget increases, let's say that this is my new equilibrium point E2 and this is IC2. Okay. If further my budget increases, let's say that this is my IC curve, that is IC3, and this is my equilibrium point E3. Now if we see from this graph, the curve that is joining, it's bending towards the x-axis. This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. Okay, the curve is bending towards the x-axis, right? It is bending towards the x-axis. Now in this case we can see that y is our inferior good and x is our normal good, because always remember that the consumer will prefer the normal good, not the inferior good. Okay, and in this case x is normal good, so the consumer will slowly give more preference to x good because x is normal. Okay, and in this case we can see that x was inferior and y was normal. Okay, so it was bending towards the y-axis, and in this case it is bending towards the x-axis. I hope it is clear up to this much. Then our next case is, what will happen if y is normal good, at the same time x is also normal good, both the goods are normal? Then what will happen? This is my budget line and this is my IC. Okay, now if my budget line increases, that is if my income increase, then my budget line will also increase. Okay, this is E2 and this is IC2. Clear? Now if further my budget line increases, then what will happen? My new equilibrium point is this, E3 and IC3. So my ICC will be straight. Okay, my ICC will be straight because in this case both Y and X goods are normal. Clear? Now for better understanding, if we see in this first diagram, see, first the consumer was consuming this much of X, okay, and this much of Y. Then the consumer was consuming this much of X but a higher amount of Y. Okay. Now at point E3 the consumer was consuming even more less amount of X. See, this point is my X1, this is my X2 and this is my X3. I don't know whether you can understand, but still I am trying my best. So at point E3 the consumer will consume even less amount, okay, but Y is continuously increasing. Now see, in case 2 the consumer increases this much of X amount and this much of Y amount. Okay, now at point E2 the consumer consumes this much of Y amount, Y2, the amount is same, okay, but X is increasing, X2, before it was X1, now it's X2. Okay, then further the consumer consumes this much of X and now he is consumed even less amount of Y. See, less amount of Y, right? So why he is consuming less amount of Y? Because Y is inferior and X is normal good. Okay, X is normal good. Now in this one he is consuming X amount of good and here it is Y amount of good. Similarly at point E2 his X is also increasing, his consumption for X good is increasing, at the same time consumption for Y good is also increasing. Further at point E his consumption for X good is increasing, also the consumption for Y good is also increasing, right? Because in this case both in Y and X are normal, so both are increasing, but in this case Y is increasing but X is not increasing. Further after a point it is decreasing. Okay, in this case our X is increasing but Y is not increasing. Okay, and in this case as both the goods are normal, so both X and Y commodity consumption is increased here. I hope it is clear to you all. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.